G'day Battlers, and welcome to episode 41 of the G'day Battlers podcast, where all of your dreams will be answered. I am PvP Steve, joined by Deborah Pebberald. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, we're genies now? Are the legendaries out? We're making dreams come true.
I'll be honest with you, I just watched a video that had like Robin Williams Genie in it. So when I went into ramble mode and I was like, where do we draw from? And it was just the last thing I saw. So that's that. I guess 3 wishes to you all. But certainly a bit of good fortune running around, especially in the tune of $3.5 billion, because there's a lot of things that have been going on in the last few weeks. Number one, Pokemon Go belongs to someone else now. Scopely just bought it from Niantic. Number 2, we've got brand new move updates. There's a whole bunch of new Pokemon that are so much better than they were before. Number 3, I didn't really have a number 3 thing, but there were a few regional tournaments that went on in the last few weeks as well, in the sort of special halfway meta between the old and the new metas. And Brisbane is upcoming, and that is pretty much all the things that we're going to talk about today, I guess. Maybe.
And podcast.
All right. So thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to follow on all the socials. G'day Battlers. Okay. Or we can do it.
Yeah.
We don't want to get, we don't want to draw the ire of outrage that we got against the Yakko episode that one time.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Mikey. Anyway. I was going to say 3 wishes. If you have 3 wishes, drop it in the YouTube comments later. But let's get into the Might and Mastery season. It's been finally announced. Our last episode was pretty much just a recap EUIC. So the new season hadn't been announced yet. The moves hadn't been announced yet. By now, I think most people would know what it is.
Yeah, look, we promise you this. We are not going to just read through the announcement and tell you all the things about, foul play was brought down in energy. We're not going to go through it, okay?
Sidewave, Rock 2.
No. We're far enough along in this matter. It's been like 2 weeks that we can just go like, okay, I think everyone gets the picture.
Sucker
now,
punch.
Maybe you haven't, oh, no. This is a disaster. So, obviously there's a lot of changes. For example, acrobatics, hex. But
I thought we weren't going to go into it. Yeah, this was my fault. This was my fault.
Obviously, we don't have to mention them all, but there are a few like rollout, nightshade, discharge. But other than like Ice School Spear being given to Mamoswine, there were quite a few changes. Yep, Charmer Bombi as well. One of the biggest ones alongside Sidewave, Venomoth. Lots of useful Pokemon here.
It's up there.
Okay, I'm going to end the bit here because otherwise we're in major trouble. But yeah, look, if you go to youtube.com/DebbiePebble, there's a video that goes through all the changes as well. So
there is a more in-depth one on PvP Steve's channel as well. So jump onto the YouTubes for that one.
I don't know about that. Actually, how long is yours? Yours is 16 minutes and 7. Oh, actually, I think mine is a few minutes longer than that.
Look, you actually talk about resets. I talk about, hey, look at Mustard's outfit.
To be fair, I really wanted to include. Well, I did talk about Mustard.
You did
as well. To be fair,
you did wanted to get the Kendrick Lamar thing in.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get 2 things in. I wanted to get the Kendrick Lamar thing in, which I did, and then the one thing that I didn't get in is the fact that the guy looks just like number 1 from Squid Game season 1.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't download the image to overlay it on top. Unfortunately, so
okay,
we missed out.
Here.
Unfortunately,
if Debbie has time, insert it here.
I thought it was I looked at the guy and I was like, hey, it's the guy. But anyway, obviously there's a lot of changes, and that means that the next couple of play Pokemon metas are going to be pretty different. Debbie, I know that, just to further the self-pluggerage that's going on here, you've put out a few videos, so I at least know that you've played in the Great League with your brand new Pokemon, which isn't always the case.
New season, new me.
Seems like it. So what have you found as sort of being like the headline out of the Might and Mastery season?
Blastoise.
Big man Blastoise.
Yeah, pretty. Look, it's a really nice update. That's a rare thing for me to say when it comes to the GBL or PvP updates. It's a good one. I don't think there's any like one that has been besides, the one that was announced during Worlds, but like the big update. But this one
Hmm.
has been it's decent. Like I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I've already played a couple of locals. So we had the middle meta, the halfway meta on the Sunday, where Galissapod was taking dominance. I'm sure we'll go through the other regionals later. And then on Tuesday we had the full play of every Pokemon being viable, except for Pichu with what is it, Quick Attack or something.
Yep.
And those
Sorry,
ones.
quick attack Pichu enjoyers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was really cool. I got to judge the challenge on Tuesday, and even just watching the gameplay, I was just like, this is actually really like I don't know how to describe it, but it just feels very like nice. As in, I was like, oh, okay, there's interesting plays here, and a lot of the battles on Tuesday actually came down to 1 HP, and not that previous ones didn't, but I was like, oh wow, these are close. This is actually pretty dynamic. What are your thoughts so far, Steve?
Yeah, overall, I'm pretty positive on it as well. And like, I've seen a lot of discourse on Twitter. I mean, speaking of Mikey Morgs, I've seen him, reply to a few tweets around sort of sharing his opinion. And my opinion really lines up with his, in the sense that it feels like a great change in that Niantic just sort of like buffed a few Pokemon, or not a few, they buffed a few. For example,
Mhm.
I'm not going to do it.
Aquajet.
But
Sorry. We'll get on track.
yes,
Steve's dying.
rather
He's
than
just like,
like,
oh.
yeah, come on, man. We don't have to talk about Psyshock Bruxish or Psyshock Togekiss or Psyshock Togetic or other things like that. Do you reckon we can get them all in over the course of this video? We'll find out.
Maybe.
But but the sort of overwhelming take that I've been seeing is kind of they haven't made any single Pokemon be the all-star. You need to run this Pokemon. It is the ultimate thing that we're going to
Mm,
RPS around, at least in these early stages.
yep.
And I am inclined to agree with that in a lot of sense. Like, I know that people are talking about Lapras, Psywave
Yes.
Lapras, as the
Yep.
sort of big bad Pokemon, for Psywave plus Sparkling Aria
Hmm.
Lapras,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
was sort of expected to really revolve the play Pokemon meta around itself. Again, obviously, I guess we didn't specifically mention it, but just in case you don't know, the Fortaleza and Vancouver regionals that we'll be talking about were in that halfway meta where
Hmm.
you weren't allowed to use Pokemon that were given new moves, with their new moves, but you could use moves that had been buffed. So, like, Aquajet Galissapod, A-OK. Aquajet Dugong, A-OK. But you couldn't use
Mm.
something like, let's say, Psyshock Renucleus, because that's a sort of new move addition. So,
We really are ticking it off. Sucker Punch
I,
Marietta.
really just gonna just pepper them in. So I do like the change on the whole. I like what they've done in not necessarily nerfing things out of the meta, just buffing new things to bring into the meta. And so I am a little more cautious than other people in that I really do think that as we start getting into these regional championships with the new meta, it might centralize a little bit more. But we'll find out as things go on. I mean, Lapras is obviously going to be pretty good. But I guess that I only have one question to ask you, Debbie, because
Hmm.
and maybe you have a take, maybe you don't. But
Hmm.
I think that people have been split on two sides. What are your thoughts on Dynamic Punch Grumpig? Because some people are saying that it's going to be some all holy mighty Psywave Dynamic Punch Shadow Ball user that covers everything. I'm a little more pessimistic about it.
I'm not convinced on the pig yet. I'm just I know that for example, like Nhoff is trying to get Grumpig to legend, as in all like currently just in her GBL battles of just Grumpig. So ultrally Grumpig is actually being played at the moment. So
Sick.
I think that's pretty cool. But I don't know. I just haven't had enough play with it just yet, or enough to visualize it. Maybe perhaps in the next regional we can see Grumpig actually make its way, and that can get into your little infographic in the future. Yeah, I don't know. That my answer is I don't know.
Fair enough. Look, I definitely do think that it will end up in that championship point infographic that, I've been putting out, because like someone will run it and get points with it. I'm not sure that it's going to be some major meta threat. Especially when do you really want to run 2 Psywave users when there's a lot of dark types that have been like buffed in this particular meta? I mean, just as one example, we do have Sucker Punch on Bombardier, who also got Rock Tomb in this meta update. It's like, if you've got all these dark type moves running around, do you really want to lean into double Psywave? I'm not so sure. I'm not really sold, especially when you could. I was going to say you could run like other Pokemon. Nah. It just kind of is what it is, I guess. But we'll wait and see. I think there is going to be a regional regional. I guess more things we're going to talk about is there are a few Asian championships coming up as well, and that is actually going to be one of the very next ones. So we'll see how it all unfolds in the next few weeks. But yeah, and I guess anything else that you want to add about the Might and Mastery season, or is that sort of the gist of it?
I think that's the gist of it. Like, obviously, give it a go. I think it's if you haven't tried it out yet, I think most people that listen to the podcast has probably tried it out at some point. But it's nice so far. I don't want to be like all super heavy positive and be like, this is the best season ever. But it's kind of like, yeah, it's a good one. Good one to step back into if you have like me, just retired and come back. I heard if I could use the word retirement, I get better at the game. So.
You know what? That's got a lot of weight, especially in the Oceanic scene. So you might be onto something there. Although I did forget that this actually is one of the greatest meta updates of all time, Debbie. Because
of course, look behind you.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned this guy. I mean, Wailmer has rollout now. I mean, it's just a shame that they nerfed rollout in the same season, so that it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they didn't nerf it, it's not what was holding it back. Let's be real. Rollout is a buff to Wailmer and Wailord, I suppose, but it's not going to be a big meta changer that gets it put into the big leagues. I've seen it at the bottom of multiple tier lists.
I feel like that's very targeted to you. Like, I feel like someone's
one of them was.
No. All of them.
Nah, because one of them that had it at the bottom was Tomahawk UK, and he is someone that actually did run WoW Meta Regional himself.
Wasn't Tomahawk running like something like? Did he play recently?
Like at a regional or something?
Maybe I saw a tweet, but wasn't he running Lanoon?
Lanoon has some legitimate play in that, obviously, Lanoon and Fireit were in that zone where they both got given Swift and Trailblaze, and then one of them got Trailblaze taken off because it wasn't supposed to learn it.
Yeah, it didn't exist.
But I think that it's obviously a bit weird, but I don't think it's an impossible Pokemon to run. I think it's reasonable-ish. But again, it's all a little bit about meta reads at the moment, and if dark types are going up and like dark type moves like Belly Bolt with Sucker Punch are going to get get all up in it, are we really going to see people running?
Well, the good thing is, I suppose if you are bringing a ghost type, perhaps maybe Dusk Noir has dynamic punch now, so got a bit of coverage.
Do you reckon this is heavy-fisted? Do you think that? You think this is a little over the top?
If they're still listening at this point.
Yeah, this is actually on you, Rollout wheezing. So anyway, let's start talking about the regionals that went on as well. So as we said, Pokemon that got buffed and such are sort of all on board. So there was one regional in Latin America in Fortaleza, which is in Brazil. I don't know how to pronounce Fortaleza. They didn't have a stream, but of course we do have the Dracoviz data, which is always pretty nice to have. And then Vancouver was also on it in the same weekend where we did have a stream, as all North Americans do. But because Fortaleza was the first one to sort of happen chronologically, I figured we'd just sort of take a look at that one first, if that makes sense to you, Debbie.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I don't even need to ask, but because you already know the answer to this, but when you saw that top 8 graphic, were you just like, what is this?
Yeah, it was pretty sick. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't put a lot of thought into what was actually going to be good this weekend. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any locals in my state in this meta.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I knew that I wasn't going to be doing any sort of competition or competing in this new meta. I was kind of just focused on the sort of overall meta that was going to be used in Brisbane at the end of this month. So I didn't really think
Yes.
about it a lot. I just sort of waited and, you know, for the graphic to pop up, for the teams to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And when Fortaleza popped up with 7 out of the top 8 teams running Galissapod, I was in there like, heck yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's sick as. Like the top 2 Pokemon in the top 8 were Galissapod and Goodra. It's like, what is happening here? That's awesome.
Yeah, look, I didn't as much as, you know, I'm all for the cutie kind of Pokemon, but Emolga? Emolga actually making a top 2? I was just like, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? That whole weekend convinced me to make a Galissapod. I had to register it to the Dex because I didn't have a Galissapod. So I was like, oh, I have to bring a Galissapod for Sunday, my local. But oh my goodness. Like, yeah, it was, I was just like, what am I looking at? I thought I was in a fever dream. Galissapod. But
Yeah.
hey, Aquajet buff. Let's go.
Yeah, look, and also, you know, we were seeing Pokemon in there like Galarian Weezing was also hanging out in the sort of top usage. It was on 37.5% of those top teams, which, you know, it did get the sludge buff going to this season, which I actually underrated, to be honest, when it was announced, but it seems like it's actually, well, certainly in the halfway meta, it's got some real play. I don't know how much play it's going to have in the broader meta, just because there is going to be a bit more Psywave action going on, and it's going to be doing super effective damage into it. But at the same time, it does have Brutal Swing. So I guess you, like, if you face a Grumpig or something, you'll actually have that super effective damage to throw back. But, you know, Lapras isn't as good for you. So I don't really know where Galarian Weezing is going to sit, but it's certainly in the usable column, which is kind of interesting. But the other Pokemon that I think is really big standout, other than, you know, Fortress that sort of shows up because of Rock Tomb buff, is Gastrodon. Because Gastrodon, yeah, apparently it's back. I mean, for so long, it was the sort of ultimate bridesmaid where it was racking up all these placements at regionals, but never first place. And it, like, the usage has created, because I was looking at it the other day, and all of a sudden it's just back, I guess, because people are really looking for that dependable counter to Drapion while not having to, you know, for example, if you were to run Kanto Marowak, which is one of the sort of older Pokemon that you would use to hard counter the Drapion,
Yes,
you're a little bit more scared of like Galissapod, for example. So you kind of have to find some different counters, and so Gastrodon made a big showing. And I guess, you know, we've probably talked enough about the meta sort of surrounding it, because big spoilers, Gastrodon won. Gastrodon has finally won its first ever regional championship. So
well done, Sluggy Wuggy. My
well
favorite
done.
sea
I
slug.
know Lou the Pikachu was cheering hard when when that graphic sort of landed up top. But let's just quickly go through the top 8. So we did have LNDS Corlash not only winning this championship, but that makes 2 in a row that he has managed to take home the victory of, which is just like, it's not unprecedented in that it has, you know, we've seen something similar in the past, but it's just something you don't see very often. And when you have to play these people, like, you know, the finals was against LNDS Harjef, he had to face Desynct, Kanan, JW Naldo, like, these guys are always showing up in the top 8s of these tournaments. They are always at the top of their game. And so for him to be able to do it twice in a row is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, there is not a lot of people that have that achievement of 2 in a row. Jakovic. But yeah, I think that's. Do they get like a little Dracoviz kind of thing? They should, like a little medal,
I
like
don't know.
back to back regional or special event or something. Anyway,
Yeah, because I know it's something that they were talking about in terms of like all of the little badges that were sort of they were, you know, giving out to people. If I just go to Yakulbarbich, is there going to be something that shows up? Nah, it doesn't look like there's any special badge as such that shows up there. There is a badge for finish a play Pokemon event with a 90% plus game win rate. So Yakko has that one. But yeah, anyway. Fortaleza, obviously, so Corlash took out the big W, which, you know, again, he was one of my losses when I went on my little Latin American tour. So definitely a solid.
didn't we have this trend of people beating you and then they're winning a regional? So really, it's thanks to you.
Mhm.
He's got back-to-back regionals now.
Yeah, you're
Really.
welcome. I think he did beat
Hmm.
me twice that weekend because we
So
played like
2
3 different.
regionals, of course. There, it's he backed
Well,
him up.
well,
It's
one, yeah. One, I think he played me once in regional, and then he played me in one of the one of the two, the cup or the challenge or the tournament
hmm
we did on the next day. Just one multiple times in the
hmm
tournaments we played, and so yeah, GG's, and you are welcome, Cool Ash.
hmm
But
hmm
congrats, seriously,
He
because
ain't listening
not
to
only
this.
did he, no, he's not listening to this, and that's fine. But he won with Gastrodon, he won with
hmm
Glycopod,
hmm
and he won with Steelix. Steelix also making a bit of a
Regular
showing.
Steelix, not even Shadow.
Yeah, regular Steelix, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it could make some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a lot of Gastrodon running around, I suppose, and I
Yeah.
have a feeling that when you're running a Pokemon like Steelix, where you've got a lot of debuffing potential because he's running Breaking Swipe, Psychic Fangs,
Oh, yeah.
maybe having a bit of bulk, sort of get a few more of those moves off, can
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
actually be somewhat beneficial. But I'm sure there's sort of a deeper reason, like the time that Shadow regular Zapdos started being used instead of Shadow, and the sort of
Mm-hmm.
logic was that it could take counter damage from Annihilate a little bit better. So there's probably some
Uh,
specific piece of tech that is why they're running
mhm.
the non-Shadow rather than the Shadow, but it ended up working out for him and taking the big W.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
guess outside of that, other things of note are, I guess, the Morpeko landing a third place finish from Desynct, which is Morpeko's best finish to date so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, congrats Morpeko, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of been waiting for a meta that it was actually going to do any good in, and I guess it found one.
I'm just surprised Emolga got second and like Mopeko got third. Like out of the what do we call these? The electric rodents.
Sure,
Rodent gang, anyway.
yeah, Ronin Gang, hey Magma man.
hmm hmm
Um, But yeah, I don't know. I guess that was sort of the big interesting thing. Again, this wasn't streamed, so that's about
hmm
all we have is the graphic.
hmm
And I guess the other Pokemon of note in the top 8, which is kind of interesting, is Sableye. So there was one Shadow
Mm.
Sableye in the top 8 from Paulinho Tad.
hmm
And some of you might, if just you're like, oh, well, that makes sense because it just got given Dazzling Gleam. Foul Play
hmm
just got like even cheaper. So like obviously it's going to be good.
hmm
But this is the halfway meta. They're
Yeah.
not allowed to run Dazzling Gleam yet.
Nope.
So they
Nope.
can run Foul Play, which has been sort of
hmm
boosted, but they were just running a Shadow with Foul Play Power Gem, and they were able
Mm.
to finish in top 6.
hmm
Which I think that some people have actually been talking about Power Gem as the way to go, even in the brand new meta, just for that little bit of extra fly coverage. I'm not convinced of that fact. I think that Dazzling Gleam is like almost definitely the way to go, but
hmm
I guess potentially if the sort of fighters leave the meta in some sense, then
Mm.
maybe you could ditch the Dazzling Gleam. But even without Sableye actually making the big showing, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm currently walking a Shadow Sableye because I don't have enough Excel. I made one with my Purified. I'm like, yeah, we'll never see. Well, I'll never need a Shadow Sableye. And here we are. And being like, I need more Excels. So Brisbane
Yeah.
Regionals, just trade me some Sableyes if you want. Got some.
Yeah, I am in a similar boat. I also need some Sableye XL, so I'm very far behind on that front. So
Mm.
it's unfortunate because like I'm still walking my Galarian Corsola, and I feel like I'm sort of getting close on Galarian Corsola stuff. And then, now Galarian Corsola's been nerfed, Nightshade got nerfed, and now I'm gonna have
Mhm.
to start building a Sableye. By the time I build my Sableye, I'm gonna be done. Like it's gonna be out of the meta. Like I feel like I can't win. I've just got to guess a Pokemon. I've been like, okay, Litleo is going to be huge next season. I'm going to go all in on building Litleo.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Mhm.
like, well, it is what it is. It's what I get for not playing this game enough, I guess. Is
You need to
the
just do
bottom
a
line.
Wade and just like go all in on Bailiff. Like just
Yeah,
just pick a
well,
Pokemon and be like, yep.
I mean, I already picked Whalmer and I built that guy.
You did. And now it has rollout.
And now it has a rollout.
Mhm.
So is it regional material? It depends if literally everyone runs Mandibars and Lapras,
Mhm.
Whalmer could legitimately be good, but so Blastoise would probably do a pretty similar job. So
Mhm. Mhm.
look, I can believe, but yeah,
Mhm.
that's about
Mhm.
all I think there is to say about Fortaleza in a sense. Unless you've got anything else to add.
Nope. We can move on to Vancouver.
Alrighty, so this is well, there was some controversy going in that people didn't realize that the cap was going to be at 120, so some people missed out.
Mm.
Um, I've sort of made it clear elsewhere that I'm obviously I'm a little sympathetic in like, oh, that sucks that people are looking to compete and they got capped out, but it only capped out a few days before the event. So I'm kind of like, if I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of the opinion that it's like maybe you should have registered for the event more than a week before, more than 4 days before, perhaps.
I think
I
Pokemon Go has been very lucky that
mhm.
we have not had to cap out in a lot of events. Now that the player base is growing and it's more popular, people are traveling to these regional special events, ICs. If you want to go, just register. I think
Yeah,
it's getting to a point now where it is like capping out or like just getting really close to um, the capacity. So if you're thinking about it, just do it. But I think
yep.
you know, for Australia, we're still quite I wouldn't say lucky, but we still have room to get to that point. But for somewhere like Canada that only have what two regionals, just why haven't you registered for your two regionals?
Yeah. I mean, like, well, we had a similar thing happen with Melbourne last year where it capped out and some people weren't able to register because it had capped out. And so, like, this happens. And I don't know if people have just psychologically, like, it's only ICs that people realize they sort of
Mm.
need to rush in, not all people. And so I don't know.
It's
I
on
mean,
them.
maybe this yeah, I guess this is the point where like there's been enough of a bit of a splash where it's like, oh, okay, maybe people will actually realize that they should register sort of ASAP.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, register for Brisbane if you haven't registered already, because I'm
Mhm.
not like it's not. Well, we don't really know where the cap is, if we're being too
Mhm.
completely honest. Like caps have shown up in random spots before. I know there
Mhm.
was one event where like the cap was 50.
Mhm.
I think one event in the past year was also like I think the cap was 60 instead of
Mhm.
64, which I thought was odd, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's sort of just like you don't know where the limit is. We haven't been told. ESL hasn't. Oh, actually, did they say there was 64? I feel like
I don't recall.
I'm not sure, but all that
Mhm.
to say, like, you don't know where the number is. If you're going
Mhm.
to go, just register.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
sort of the bottom line. But
Mhm.
with that, out of the way, let's talk Vancouver because even though it was in the same weekend in the same meta,
Mhm.
it looked really different. It was,
Completely different. Obviously,
yeah.
the circles, like the PvP circles, were like some of them talk to each other, and some of them don't.
Hmm.
Like obviously in Fortaleza, I think there was a more tighter circle. For
Hmm.
Vancouver, wider circles. A
Yeah.
lot of different things that were present there. And what's a standout for you in Vancouver?
Well, I suppose a reverse standout is that we did not see Galissapod's success at all.
Mm-mm.
Galissapod ain't showing up in that top graphic. It is like, the top 6, 12, the top 12 usage for
Mhm.
both day 2 and day 1, neither of them you're seeing Galissapod.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
on the day 1 usage graphic, it's Azumarill, Drapion,
Mhm.
Diggersby, Dugong, Clodsire, Primeape, Superior. Stop me when you hear anything new. The day 1 meta was very much just cookie cutter brought in from previous metas.
Mhm.
But I want to sort of add a caveat to that in that the percentage numbers are actually
Mm.
quite low. In
Mm.
that the story is in some sense that a lot of people were trying out a lot of different Pokemon. And so
Yes.
the day 1 pool was actually quite spread out. So,
Mhm.
even though Chargebug, like it was less than 15% usage, it's still in
Mhm.
the top 12 graphic
Mhm.
because it was like that spread, I guess,
Mhm.
is the point to make.
Yeah, this is a cool time. Like I think these like halfway metas. I know that it's only valid for one weekend, so it really, almost like it really shows the prowess of people that have played the game for a long time.
Mm.
Because I'm like some people think that maybe they just get lucky with team composition, but I feel like if you can really quickly read the meta, being like, okay, it's limited, it's only this. It's almost very like Sylphie. Um, that you kind of have to like, okay, this is what I got to work with, and it was some interesting picks, and I think a lot of people, like you said, was just trying out a lot of things, and my surprise pick was actually Dugong. I didn't think it would be that popular.
Yeah, and I think that makes some sense as well. I mean, I suppose Dugong again is kind of filling that role similarish to Gastrodon, where
Mm,
you are getting some level of ground coverage. Where for Drapion, also for like Clodsire, which is apparently back in some sense, but
mm,
also you're getting some sort of reverse coverage for Jumpluff as well.
mm,
Where Jumpluff has won about all. It's actually almost 2/3 of the regionals like since LAIC was a stat that I saw Marto throw out. And I feel like, I don't know if he threw that out before or after this weekend, because spoilers, Jumpluff won both of them as well. So I do think that there is some legitimacy to the big Dugong sweep that is
mhm,
sort of rushing through. And even you've even got play back into like a Mulga and such, I guess.
mhm.
So I don't know. I think there's some logic to it, but yeah, I wouldn't have predicted that it would be as big as it was. Although I guess the big sad note on that is that Dugong probably drops well off a cliff going into the next one, because then all of a sudden we can start bringing Lapras. And so, are you really going to want to run two Ice Waters in the same team? I'm
Look,
not so sure,
it's a nice
especially.
send off.
Yeah, I guess send off is the way to go. But if you want to be a little bit weak to roll like Glalie, then feel free to go into the double ice water territory. It's always an option. But I guess in this particular tournament, it's sort of similar to many in that you see a lot of the big names up the top. Plenty of big names didn't do as well and haven't showed up in the graphic.
Mhm,
But there's people like Wild Jeff, Stud Muffins, the Torian, Dialap in here,
mhm,
Nighttime Clasher in the top 8, and then top 4 being SS Thorn, who is running the exact same team from the Fortaleza winner,
mhm.
as was the first place winner of the Vancouver Regional as well. The two tournaments were won by the exact same team:
Mhm.
Dugong, Steelix, although actually it is Shadow Steelix this time,
Yes.
Gastrodon, Drapion, Jumpluff, and Galissapod,
Mm-mm.
um, which is kind of crazy.
Well, the circles were talking to each other. They were like, "This is the team. This is the team."
Yeah, it seems like if two of the top 4 teams are the exact same team in this one, and the winning team on the other one is the same one, it does sort of tell you that there seems to be a bit of a winning formula sort of tucked in this halfway meta. But anyway, I guess
is
just
anyone
to
claiming
read.
credit? Is anyone claiming credit for the team yet?
I haven't seen anything, but
Mm-mm.
I might have missed it. Is also possible, because I
Mhm.
mostly just focused on the battles.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Fair enough.
not 100% sure.
Mhm.
But look, we had SS Thorn in 4th with that same team. We
Mhm.
had Dunebug coming in 3rd. I think
Mhm.
Dunebug's had a little bit of a tougher season in that in the past, like I truly believe that back in say 2021, he
Mm.
was undisputed the best battler in the world. Like
Mm.
he was top of the pack. No one could match him.
Mhm.
Over time, people have started matching him.
Mhm.
And I feel like after coming second at EUIC and then I think winning the regional immediately after in the last
Mhm.
season, he
Mhm.
hasn't had a lot of great performances.
Mhm.
I mean, not that he's been allergic to top cut, but he just hasn't sort of broken through to the very tippy top, I don't think, in a little bit. So he's sort of, I guess, showing that he's still got it with a
Yes.
3rd place finish, with
Mhm.
another bit of team spice, I suppose, compared to a lot of the other teams that were running around.
Mhm. Mhm. I always find it amusing when they always show his photo and it's just got all the medals just draped around with with his trophy.
Whoa. Yeah, it's a pretty sick photo. You can't
Mhm.
deny. It's
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, if you could
Yeah.
have a photo like that, you would want a photo like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's just how it goes. I saw Harjeff, I think also posted a lot of medals and trophies quite recently on X as well. So
Mhm.
it's pretty sick to have those sorts of accolades. But
Mhm.
Dunebog did this time with Shadow Fortress, Jellicent, and Guzzlord all on
Mhm.
his team, which Guzzlord, a pretty interesting read in that you do resist a lot of that damage coming in from Pokemon like Galissapod, like
Mhm.
Jumpluff. You
Mhm.
really do sort of put up some walls against a lot of Pokemon. And I guess also making a bit of a read that Dark type, even though we aren't going to see a lot of Psywave in this meta, we're still
Mhm.
going to be pretty decent.
Mhm.
I didn't see any Psychics really running around
Mm-mm.
much at all, but still, Guzzlord was able to do quite a bit of damage. And then we had Haydonis coming in second, which I'm sure he was pretty stoked at. But he landed in with the Dugong, the Shadow Marowak, Azumarill, Shadow Drapion, Chargebug, and Shadow Dusclops, which was, I guess, the big standout from Vancouver when compared to Fortaleza.
Yeah. Like, when's the last time you saw a Dusclops?
Sylph. I remember running the guy back then, but I don't know. It didn't even like get well, I guess the hex buff is the thing that really helped out Dusclops in the end, but there's none of the other stuff really affects it. Like, you know, it's not like Dramper who got Swift. It just is what it is.
I went just going back to Guzzlord. When I was making my team for the local on the Sunday for this particular meta, Guzzlord did come up quite a bit in PV Poke. So I think it was definitely, caught people's eyes of just being like, oh, okay, if I bring Guzzlord, it actually wins all these like particular matchups. So I considered it. But you know, I found cuter Pokemon to pick. So
yeah,
there was one Uggo already with the Golisopod. Okay, I let that one go. Then everything else had to actually be cute.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I messaged you something along the lines of like, how likely are you going to see Golisopod? How likely are you to see Guzzlord? Because I was like, oh, my team might be a bit weak to Guzzlord, and I'm like, come on, man, don't think about Guzzlord. It's not going to be.
Half of the crew brought Guzzlord.
Really? That's crazy. Because like, I'm looking at the top. Is this top 16? Yeah, the top 16 graphic. Dunebug is the only one. Like, it's not like it was some big meta Pokemon that was going to be the big read. Like, it's barely here. Actually,
it's just different in WA. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the only place that Bastion has succeeded. Actually, Debbie, 119 people registered teams for this tournament. There were 2 Guzzlords. 2. That's insanely low.
They're most welcome to Western
60.
Australia.
Yeah, I guess so. So, you know, when
we'll give you a visa.
How likely are you going to see Guzzlord, the answer was apparently really likely.
Yeah.
So my bad on that one. But yeah, look, in the end, we did get to see a rematch of Rise to Occasion versus Dunebug in the losers finals, but it all ended up with Rise to Occasion becoming the champion of Vancouver Regional. And not only that, but being the first and only player to keep on carrying the accolade of winning a regional in every single season. He's the only guy, like, he was the only one possible. He's the only one that had 3, and now he's the only one that has 4, which I think is sick.
There we go. I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
he should be wearing his medals.
True. What the heck, guy? Be a little less humble, would you?
Where's the photo? Come on.
But I saw him talking in the interview, sort of on stream. He was talking about, like, you know, there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders because, like, after you're the only guy with 3, and, you know, he was talking about how he heard a lot of people keep saying, like, oh, you know, we're over halfway through the season and Rise hasn't won yet. Like, you know, there's not that many chances to go, and so it's like, you know, he did feel the pressure. But I'm very happy for him that he's sort of able to find that success. Not only because I really like the guy, but it's also just a good storyline, and we love a good storyline.
Look, I think it's something that you love throwing out, like the It's Axon and Ric Flair on like little, like, you know, fun fact.
I love a good fun. I mean, to be fair, I guess that is some of that caster sauce of, like, if you can have some fun random stats to throw out there, that's always enjoyable. That's also always awesome. I like that bit of things. So I do, you know, that statistic is, you know, in my little basket, ready to fire out at a moment's notice. Yeah, look, I don't know if I really have any other big comments to make about Vancouver, because a lot of the teams look kind of normal in the grand scheme of things. Like,
I agree.
You know,
like,
one new Pokemon, maybe.
Yeah, look, like you said, it is very like familiar-ish. There's only been a couple that, you know, have kind of like peeked through, but otherwise, it's very same. So I'm okay to move on, and let's call. To be fair, I do need to mention Zimmy Kid that has brought a low kick, so because that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I was like, wow,
that was pretty sick. Yeah, because that didn't get a buff either, right? Like,
No.
Or did it? It doesn't, wait, what does it even have? What is low kicks? I can just go to his exact team and see what he was running. He was running Sucker Punch, X is at Trailblaze. So no, it was completely unbuffed. It was just a read on, I guess, Trailblaze being good, which fair enough. Xyzer, I don't think is a massive move into like the current meta. I guess it's good into Dunebug's Guzzlord. And then you've got Cycle Punch as well, which, you know, I don't really know what and just in my head, and again, this is because I've put a lot more thought into sort of the broader meta rather than the halfway meta. I'm not sure what Sucker Punch is there to hit before the Wave apocalypse that's about to come through. But
maybe there's selected cups or things, but otherwise, I don't know.
Look, maybe it's got a better matchup into Ice School Spear Pillar Swine. I couldn't tell you.
No idea.
But anyway, that's the sort of, I guess, big regional updates on those fronts. But there's a lot of other regional updates on continents that we don't often talk about, Debbie. One being South Africa. South Africa is actually getting 2 special championships, which, to be clear, like not a lot of notice in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're sort of expecting there to be like no tournaments. Like they sort of just dropped it all of a sudden. It was like, hey, you've got a tournament at the end of April. It's sort of like, less than 2 months notice, I think.
Hey, look, it's still not a Brisbane regional where it's like 3 weeks, right? So they got plenty of notice in grand scheme of things.
I guess, but I don't know. Going from 0 to regionals is a pretty big step, especially when they were probably planning around their season just like, oh, okay, I'm going to need to travel to EYC to try and get some points for this region and whatnot. But, all of a sudden, boop, two special championships popping up, which, like, hey, power to them. I'm happy to see that they're getting some sort of representation over there.
Yeah, so they both are special events, so they don't get prize money, but they're still winner will be obviously get to go to Worlds, and that's it. Besides championship points. So championship points.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they actually do get championship points. In it's not like the Asian region where they aren't picking up championship points or anything like that. But speaking of the Asian region, that is the other big one with a ton of updates because they just announced the sort of full suite of tournaments that are pretty much, they're literally all going to be happening in this Might and Mastery season, which again, not a lot of warning for quite a few of these, one in particular, which is, I don't love it. Obviously, no one likes the idea of like, oh, that's a great idea to give no notice. So obviously no one is intending for that to be the case, right? Like, there's other factors and whatnot, but I do think it's unfortunate, especially when like, I guess the big one that is coming up this weekend to kick it all off is the Indian qualifiers, which I want to say outside of Japan were the biggest of the Asian circuit last season. Where it's so big that they actually have to split it up into 2 separate qualifiers. Now, for those that aren't familiar with the Asian circuit, they sort of do a 2-step process where you play a first tournament, a qualifier tournament to qualify for the playoffs, and the top X amount of players from the qualifiers go to the playoffs, and the playoffs are that sort of final tournament where you actually try and compete for that regional or the World Championship invitation. And that's it. You get one shot. If you bust it, you're out. And that's, all you get for the season. So it's always pretty tough. And I think we'd all love to see it move towards a little bit more of a TPCI type of circuit in the grand scheme of things. But, at least they have something and it all kicks off really, really, really soon. Like India is literally going to be the groundbreakers for what this meta looks like. We're just all going to be looking to them to try and see what goes on. But it's scary.
Yeah. Any predictions? Anything like, I don't know, Sludge Swampert or...
okay. I know that's a joke, but Sludge Swampert could do something.
Yeah, that was a legit thing.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
How foolish of me to think that you might have had other motives.
Me?
No, I just feel like, you were holding back from just mentioning like Sludge Bomb Dragalge next as the sort of like the second one on the list. You were just like, what else is possible?
I don't know. Poison Sting Roserade. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So anyway, I think that everyone's predictions are in a pretty similar spot in that like Lapras going to be good. I think that Drapion and Azumarill are still going to be good, even going into a bit of a different meta. I just don't think that they're going to get pushed out of the meta. There's not going to be too much fighting them away, I suppose, especially when they're so dynamic. And like Drapion, it gets to its charge attacks so fast that I just don't think that you can push Drapion out of the meta without some level of like hard counterage. Like they haven't really buffed the ground types.
Nope. They got buffed enough.
Yeah, Marowak is fine. People wanted to see Marowak nerfed rather than they also wanted to see Drapion nerfed. So if you don't nerf Drapion, you're not going to nerf the ground types. That just makes a little bit of sense, I guess. But other than the Sludge Swampert buff, I suppose. But this was my hot take, I guess. Early on in the season, well, before the season started, maybe, or just after, I was invited to go on 2O Butters hosted this panel stream with a bunch of people that know a lot more about this game than I do. As far as I was concerned, I was a DEI Australian hire.
Thank you for having me. I'm here to represent.
Hi guys. It was an early morning wake up, but still really fun to be a part of. But
the United Nations, yes.
Hey guys, g'day. Cool that it was organising it as well. But one thing that I mentioned on that stream that I got some pushback for was mentioning that Bastiodon could actually be kind of good, depending on what the meta looks like. Because, if you've got a lot of things that are weak to rock, like a Mandibuzz, I think is going to be pretty big. Talonflame might still be running around. I think that Lapras is obviously going to be big. So I'm kind of just like, well, there's a chance that you might see some Bastiodon edge. But the point that they, Home Slice Henry, I think brought up, maybe he didn't, someone else did. But Carbink is probably just a better Bastiodon. In that not only do you have that hard rock damage to fight things like a Mandibuzz, but you've also got that fairy type coverage that can do pretty well into all of the dark types running around as well. So it might be more reasonable, but I think there's some pretty solid core break potential in there.
Is this the season that Carbink gets something on the infographics?
I mean, one person got championship points with it this last weekend, I think. So I think they came like top 32. Unless that was in, that might have been like EYC and they came like top 6, top 128 or something. I know there's been like one Carbink that got points in the last few weeks, but
let's go Binky Bonky.
Yeah.
If you can't win with Bastiodon, we'll go with the Binky Bonky in WA.
I do think it would be sick to have a second ever Bastiodon winner after Rob Drogo in 2022. But look, we'll see. And I am intending to try and yoink some footage from the Indian qualifier as well to make some videoage if they're happy to send the footage through. Also, nice. I did contact the organizers about like potentially streaming like the later tournaments, like the finals or such. And they said they'd get back to me. So they're actually talking about it, which is interesting.
Cool. Nice.
I don't expect anything. I wouldn't get any hopes up, but hey. Conversation is conversation, and even if not this season, maybe next season would be pretty cool. But anyway, that's kind of that. If you are in one of those Asian regions, to be honest, you're not going to find out from this podcast when they are. you
if you're using this podcast as like your news source for those kind of things, I'm sorry to break it to you. It's a bit late.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not great podcast etiquette for the fact that we took 2 weeks to talk about like one of the biggest PvP changes of all time. Like, how else were people going to hear about Trailblaze Florges? You really have to tune in.
Yeah. Maybe someone out there just doesn't know about Sludge Swallow. Like, I just don't know anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Luckily, we're here to sort of close that knowledge gap and really get everyone on board.
Yeah, that's what you're really here for, the updates.
So you're welcome for all of that. I guess we've got one other play Pokemon sort of update slash announcement before we get into the Australian side of things,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the introduction of Ace Trainer Rewards. Now, I don't know if you remember this, Debbie, but
Mm-hmm.
back at like the start of the season, Pokemon they had this update where it was like, oh, stay tuned for updates about like other ways to get rewards with your championship points or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And months passed. We got to the halfway point of the season, no mention
Mm-hmm.
of anything. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
is this
I
happening? Like,
I totally didn't remember. Honestly, I don't even remember that because it was just like,
I
that's
only
a,
remembered it because other people mentioned it. They were like, "Hey,
uh,
like at Pokemon, what the heck, guys? Like NAIC is in 3 months. when do we hear about this thing?" So they finally announced it, and it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. To be honest, maybe you've got a different take, but essentially, if you get 200 championship points in the
mm-hmm.
season in
Mm-hmm.
one specific game, it can't be
Mm-hmm.
across multiple.
Mm-hmm.
They'll send you sort of a promo card in the
Yeah,
mail for like free of charge. They'll just send it your way, which
yeah. So these promo cards, they were only at least previously only exclusive to Asia. So they
Mhm.
were, I think, predominantly written in Japanese. So they weren't available outside Asia. So now they're actually making these available outside Asia. So I don't know if it'll be written in Japanese. Maybe they'll have English ones. They actually just have a question mark over the like the promo card. So we don't even know what the promo card looks like or what language
Mhm.
it will be in. However, it is an exclusive item. You like, and if I know we probably predominantly talk about Go, but if you have even an inkling of anything of Pokemon card related at the moment, it is gangbusters with anything like card related. So you probably could sell it for a decent amount because it is an exclusive card. You need to get championship points. You need to have 200 championship points, and depending on where you live, you potentially could get it through locals if can get that amount of championship points. But most likely, you'll need to dip into regionals
Mhm.
to be eligible. I think a majority of people that will be eligible will probably have enough points from a regional to boost them up to get them over the 200 CP mark. So it's kind of nice for those that aren't aiming for worlds, aren't aiming for top of the leaderboard. They're just kind of like, oh, you know what? It's something to aim towards and kind of pursue the rest of the season. The other
Mhm.
thing that you can also get from the Ace Trainer rewards is some exclusive items on Pokemon TCG Live, which I think is sleeves and a deck. Uh, the deck box cover of some sort. Now they haven't shown what that would be, but again, it's an exclusive item, so people may want it. I want to see what it is first because the previous ones they look cute, so I'm just like, oh, it looks cute. But yeah, it's just the good thing is they're shipping it out to you, so you don't collect it from your local game store. You don't collect it at regionals. Once they do it all, I think it's sometime next year they'll probably send it to your house. So if you happen to have over 200 CP, even though you're not going to get travel award or anything like that, update your details on Play Pokemon, like your
Mhm.
actual personal details, because they will send it and mail it to you to that address. So
Mhm.
it's just like a kind of like a nice thing. It's a very just like, it's like stickers. I'm like, yeah, it's nice. Is
Yeah.
it going to
Like,
impact too much? No, but it's still
no.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if they had announced this without any sort of preamble, without any
Mm-mm.
mention 9 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
I think this would just be a purely positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen a little bit of disappointment from some people that like were
Mm-mm.
expecting a little bit more because like from
Yeah.
this vague announcement of like, oh, you can use your championship points to get something else, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, maybe I can get like stuff from the Pokemon Center, or I can get like, I think people you know were left to their imaginations, and their
Mm-hmm.
imaginations were able to come up with something better than a card,
Yeah.
which like is what it is.
Mm-mm.
I guess if TPCI does similar things in the future,
Mm.
I'd be more inclined for the under promise, all of a sudden deliver strategy.
Mm-mm-mm.
Which, like, as much as like information is good, if we don't even know anything's happening, then it might be for the best if it's going to take this long for stuff to get announced. I suppose.
Mm. I hope it's a stepping stone to
Mm-hmm.
build for future things because obviously with promo cards being Go players, we're kind of like, well, it's not really. It's nice to have, but it's not like we don't use the cards. So I'm kind of hoping for possibly like an outfit. That would be cool. Or like something that is in-game orientated. I don't know, like something that is more Go related. So if they can like niche it down in the future, but it's still something. It's something for practically doing what you're probably doing anyway. So, I mean, like I can tell you, I won't be able to get 200 championship points. I looked at my championship points. I was like, ooh,
Wait, what are you at now?
36.
Oh, I mean, it's doable.
It's
You've got a few.
March.
Yeah.
All right,
You
all the
just
Perth crew, you guys are capped out on cups. Just
just what, Debbie? What? Just what? We're recording.
Oh no. Anyway, next to talking about Brisbane regionals, hey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. But yeah, look, it's what it is. But yeah, so I guess Brisbane regionals is obviously coming up. It's at 44 people registered at the moment, which, to be honest, is kind of again, it's still a little bit low compared to what I was expecting it to be.
It has just made it over Perth. Okay.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if it's going to be late regos is what's going on here, and people are going to get sad that they're, oh no, I missed rego. It's like you had months. But
I think it's just unfortunate Brisbane regional is on the same time as a city safari. So
yeah,
those that are kind of in that middle that live in Brisbane, and they're kind of like, well, if I had a choice between regionals or like safari, they've already booked their flights and gone. So it's just unfortunate timing that that's on that weekend. So I think there will be not as much as the previous Brisbane regional, but I don't. Yeah, 44. I'm hoping it'll get to 48, and or whatever the cap is, or the next championship point kicker is. Is it 48? Or is it
no,
down to?
I was actually thinking about this earlier because I think it changed. Is the bottom line? We're not going to hit the next the next kicker is at 65, and the last one is at 33. So it's actually irrelevant to us now. is the truth? Like I am expecting that our cap is at 64, so there's probably no way for us to get extra people getting championship points. Would be my guess, but. You never know, but the more people, the merrier. Bit more competition, bit more action, bit more chance for some sort of spice to peek on through. But is what it is. But anyway,
and that's that is coming up very, very soon. So if you haven't registered, and I think this might be the last podcast before Brisbane regionals.
Yeah.
So if you haven't registered, do it now. Crazy. And we're already here. I know we've been talking about it for months and months and months because there's no Oceania regional, blah, 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 blah. And now we're like, oh, it's 2 weeks away.
Yeah. I mean, they did load them all in one spot, I guess. In a 2-month span, we're going to hit 2 regionals, about 3 of the calendar year. But, it is what it is in that sense. But, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of all there is to say about old Brisbane. And so I guess outside of that, the only other piece of big news, I suppose, is the fact that, finally, Credilli Rock Tomb buff. And also, Niantic no longer going to be owning Pokemon Go, which, sounds big.
It is big. It's a lot of money.
Some people are getting rich.
Yeah. Holy. So there was rumors. There was like something that was dropped. Maybe like what was it? Maybe 2 weeks ago, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that.
About Scopely buying Pokemon Go, and that's all we saw. That was like Scopely's buying Pokemon Go. It's much more than that. Now they've come out with a statement. So yesterday, I believe Ed came out with a statement talking about how Pokemon Go, or Scopely is now going to be owning Pokemon Go, but not only Pokemon Go, but also Pikmin Bloom and Monster Hunter Now, which is all, I suppose, the games that have different IPs, right? And then Niantic also have an offshoot called Niantic Spatial, which will include Ingress and Peridot. So the games aren't going away; they're just kind of getting under different ownership or like different sections. And from what the statements I've read and everything, it's business as usual. So things are pretty much staying. Campfire staying, the community ambassador program staying. Um, like everyone that's working from Pokemon Go are staying. It's just going to be under Scopely instead of Niantic. So once a loading page is different, you'll know. You won't see your balloon, up there in the sky anymore. You'll see the big S scope for Scopely. But yeah, interesting times. I'm kind of like hopeful. I think hopefully Scopely do have a background in mobile gaming. So I think from various comments I've seen, people are a bit skeptical just of their um, monetizing methods. But I strongly believe that after reading the articles and statements from Michael Steranka and other Niantic or previous or still future Pokemon Go staff, that they're pretty much going to keep the integrity of the game. So I don't think, for example, pop-up ads is going to be in the nature of Pokemon Go. But quote me on that. We'll see in a year's time. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, we'll find out. Look,
Mhm.
I do think that a lot of people were more pessimistic until they heard the news that basically the entire Pokemon Go team was staying on, that
Mhm.
everything seemed to, it didn't sound like there were going to be any big immediate changes. I think that sort of tempered a lot of people's concerns.
Yeah.
So look, I kind of come down on the opinion of, I guess we'll just wait and see.
Mhm.
Hopefully, I know some PvP folk have actually been a little bit, I don't know if it's over optimistic, but there's a little bit of optimism in terms of, there's some link to through the company owning company sister with company yada 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 shenanigans. There is some heavy links to sort of Saudi Arabian esports,
Yeah.
which obviously there's controversy in that for a lot of people, but just the fact that there is that esports piece means that maybe they will actually take the sort of the play Pokemon circuit and such a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And that maybe they'll prioritize trying to fix PvP or something like that.
So I'm laughing because the first thing I saw this morning was Marto Gaude with like a Scopely Twitter, and underneath it's like fix the game. I cracked up laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing I read this morning.
Thanks, Marto.
Oh, he's starting early. I love it.
Well, he didn't get to do it on stream for one of his last couple wins, so
maybe he knew. He knew he was saving it up for this.
Thanks, Marto. Oh man, that's one guy that would love the sludge buff. He's really going to hope to see a Bastion in the regional so we can sludge some Basties. But anyway, look, that to be honest, that's kind of all there is to say about Scopely at this point. I'm sure we'll learn more in the coming days, weeks, months. But
yep, there's nothing else to be announced on that. Like, there's no dates of takeover or anything, so we'll just see how it goes. And I think the quash the rumors, because like once the rumors were there about 2 weeks ago, everyone was just like, no, like at the end of the world. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm kind of like, I know. Yeah, what to say. Alrighty, on to the next bit, which is YouTube comments. So
we did put it on the agenda this time, which
we did.
Sort of forgot it last time. Not that we actually. I think it's possible. I needed to check. There actually might have been an extra comment on the previous episode that was made after we recorded. I think maybe. Let me just fact check that.
Okie dokie.
Just in case. I don't think we saw this comment from T. Wastel. Because it says 13 days ago, which I think was after we recorded, but before we uploaded, I think.
Yes.
So
he
says, hi Tristan. I think Aerial Ace Brave Bird is the best moveset on Pidgeot, Shadow Pidgeot. That's the set Dune used when he won Orlando, though he used Wing Attack over Gust. The shadow damage boost means Aerial Ace still does decent chunk damage, lets you actually deal damage without having to debuff yourself, and it's also really nice how much cheaper Aerial Ace is than Feather Dance. I guess that's fair enough. Like that was me sort of doubting it at the in that last,
But
I
it
guess, 2
doesn't have
episodes
the
ago.
meme value of Feather Dance. There's such lore in Oceania about Feather Dance.
The only loss that Yakko had to face at OCIC, all at the hands of that Feather Dance. But yeah, look, it's fair enough. Although I don't really expect a lot of Pidgeot action to be coming in this season, at the very least. I'm pretty sure he made that comment before the move update as well. But
13 days ago, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the comments from the most recent episode. We've got a comment from Hawk Aussie or Aussie Mawile. I'm still unclear. I think that he's changed his name to Aussie Mawile in all of the Pokemon games, but on Twitter he's still Hawk Aussie, so I'm not entirely sure. But he said, "Did someone say to comment for the algorithm?"
Thank you. Please comment for the algorithm.
Guess who the next comment's going to be from along those same lines. Also, I did believe I was the outlier in the Rick accusations, as I believed that Rick wouldn't be that bad as a drawer, but not that good compared to what he had delivered. Yeah, look, no one guessed how good Rick's drawing capabilities were. Let's be clear on that one.
The man is talented.
The man is talented. It's insane. But in terms of regionals, he continues, at least it was a relief that the Brisbane regionals isn't this weekend, as I don't reckon it would run with the cyclone going through. This then meant that I went digging in terms of Pokemon history, and other than the virus era, where the tournaments was cancelled, only one Pokemon tournament, regionals or higher, looks like it's been cancelled, and that was the 2011 Japanese Nationals, where the earthquake and tsunami occurred.
Oh, yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah. Do you remember all of that? I mean, I preempted the reaction before I said it, and then I was like, oh, maybe I don't say it, but I was in primary school when that happened, so I've sort of got some slight, I kind of remember hearing about it, but
it hurts that you said that 2011 you were in primary school. Okay. Can we just acknowledge that bit first?
Yeah, that was my hesitation. I was like, oh, I know where this goes. Yeah, so all that to say, I kind of remember it happening, but I literally know nothing about what actually.
The pain, guys.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. But
on to the next comment.
No more day-to-day references. Got it. You're free to do the next comment if you'd like.
All right, and Emma says, there's a fair few comments here from Anne Emma, so we're just going to go them one after the other. So, Big Cheese comment for the YouTube algorithm, emoji. Someone say merch, I was summoned, eyes emoji, and another emoji, hehe. Steve can do the emojis.
It's I don't know if anyone in this audience, and they probably don't, watch Good Game Spawn Point. It was this TV show that was on ABC3. And they would read they would read the fan mail, and it was oh, Banjo, do these ones. And anyway,
he still streams on Twitch. Sometimes I still watch him, just just get that Spawn Point vibes. And so does Steph as well.
Just to be clear, you watch Spawn Point, not the big kid one.
There's a big kid one.
Oh my! It was Good Game, and there was Good Game Spawn Point.
Did I watch the wrong one?
Well, I don't think that he was reading emojis on the big one. So.
Look, that was great for my taxpayers' money, and I was disappointed when they cut that off, okay?
You're telling me. But anyway.
Continuing on with Anne's one of 10 comments. The XL in London was massive. A lot of really big events, conventions are held there, so wouldn't be surprised if EUIC is held there once again in the future. Yeah. Also, Twitch did you a dirty and outed the amount you put in, Debbie.
With the points thing for Ric Flair, I remember.
Yeah. I'm still a winner. And also, and Emma says, Scooby-Doo movies, God tier, fire emoji, blush emoji. Next one was, you never know what the future holds. Yous might be on the casting panel, eyes emoji, blushing emoji. Also, EUIC is pretty dope. A lot of cool kids go. Winky, sticky tongue outie emoji. The card vendors, they were awesome. I picked up some dope cards myself. Next is not a Rolls Royce. I could see Debbie rocking up to an event in a vintage Rolls Royce.
That's big Debbie Pebble vibes.
Yeah. You are just giving a show, keeping it entertaining. We respect it. Another emoji, and then 2 masks theater emoji. I'm in the process of building a Synesty to use in Great League, as I can't use Poltergeist. So if you win a challenge with Synesty, I'll be hella impressed. Angel, Halo emoji, sticky outy tongue emoji, and blush emoji.
To be update, I'm pretty sure she has one now. But anyway.
Okay, good. Then welcome beans, blush emoji, yellow heart emoji. Thanks for putting up with my chaos. Excellent podcast episode. Oh no, shocked emoji. Monkey cover eyes emoji times 2. Look, after that conversation, I did second move a hundo teacup and it maxes out under 1500. So redemption time may be mine. Question mark eyes emoji. Up in the air emoji. Eyes emoji. Okay, and the last 2 comments are PS. It's a 3-way tie for my favorite Aussies with Use and Boss Egg. How could I pick? I couldn't and I won't. Even with a gun to my head, it's the heel I'll water off on. Look, Boss Egg is the winner. Okay, we'll go with Boss Egg. It's okay. You pick a Boss Egg. But tongue sticky outy, crying face on the side, as in laughing crying face, and then blush emoji. Polls for the many comments. Brain had many thoughts. We got that. And then last emoji, which is 5 days ago. PS reporting back the report. I don't know what thread my brain was on RE homework, unless it was in regards to giving Steve teams, question mark. I don't think he would do very well with any team I give him, so we'll leave it to better beans. Haha.
Yeah,
thanks.
I've got no clue. But anyway,
thanks, Anima.
Thanks for the comments. And of course, thanks for being our big Patreon supporter as well of the podcast. So shout
Appreciate
out to
you.
Anne. But I think that's all we've got to say. So look, as Debbie said before, we might not have another episode before Brisbane. You know, we'll see. I mean, we don't really announce when these things come out. Like, it's roughly every 2 weeks, but you know, you get it when you get it. So we plan to record it every 2 weeks. I think we've been actually pretty good for a few months now.
Look, the listeners are used to our abuse of, like, you know, like a bad boyfriend. I mean, every now and then I'll give you some attention.
Just to string them along, eh?
Treat them mean, keep them keen.
Well, look, everyone, it's a pleasure treating you mean. Hopefully we've kept you keen, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Don't forget to follow on all the socials, Academy Battlers, so you can sort of check it every now and then, and just wait longingly, hoping that you see us again pop up in your feed. And
if you're waiting, drop a comment.
Yeah, feel free. We will get to them eventually. Even if we, you know, upload in the middle, we'll go back and catch it maybe sometime. We've probably missed them in the past, to be honest. But if that's the case, just let us know as well. We'll go back any distance. But
please do.
Yeah, okay. I think that's it. I think we did it. So
bye.
See you at Brizzy. Bye.
Bye.
Also, Shock got nerfed and also Air Cutter got reworked. Okay, bye.